get into this other thing. So, we've been talking about a lot of reviews. Child, now we can put to bed this Real Housewives of New Jersey. Now, the third installment happened this past week, and child, it was a lot. I remember when I was talking about it, I was like, I think I need a Xanax after watching this episode because it was just so much. Like, I was uncomfortable. I was on edge. Like, my body was literally like tense the entire time watching the episode. I was like, oh, damn, my shoulders is hurt. My back is because I was so intense watching it. And it's gotten to the point where the back and forth between Teresa and her brother Joe, it's not fun to watch anymore. It's not fun um watching those two on screen going back and forth and bickering. Hey, Lindsay girl, she's in the building. Yeah, it was a lot, child. I don't know. It's like at this point, and I've been watching the Behind the Velvet Rope podcast. Yeah, Kim D and them keep saying Melissa's gonna get fired and this, that, a third. I don't know who's gonna get fired. I'm gonna give my opinion at the end of this to let y'all know what I think. But first of all, let's just get into the situation. So the other two parts, it was cute or whatever. But my thing was like, I want them to hurry out and bring the husbands, because when they brought out the husbands, it's like when we can get in the middle of everything. So Joe Gorga, when he came out, he basically echoed his sister and was like, because they was asking like, how are you feeling right now? He's like, my heart is beating out of my chest, which is the same thing Teresa said. And I think probably the reason why they were feeling that way is because they have not seen or spoken to each other since filming the finale, where Louis sat up and talked about I got Bo Dito got dirt on all of y'all, and then try to deny it at the reunion. This is the thing that pisses me off with people. It's like when y'all say something, I don't think y'all know how reality TV works. When you say something out of your mouth, we believe it as fact. But then I was gonna get into that. It's like Lindsay's like, but jokes aside, Melissa and Joe doesn't have a storyline other than argue with Tree, and I do agree with that. It's that, and I'm thinking at this point, maybe Teresa, I mean, not Teresa. I do believe that Joe and Melissa's got to go. If y'all don't have a story, and now I have to say this, shout out to Melissa, because I will say this, even though I've heard she's a liar and all these other things I've heard about her, I have to give it up to her for finally standing up to her sister-in-law, because a lot of times she's kind of been passive with a lot of things that Teresa says and just lets it go, probably because she was always thinking, oh, we'll come back next season and we'll work it out then. But it's like, no, when you're in the line of fire, defend yourself. If your sister-in-law's out here making up lies and accusations about you, defend it. Don't sit up here and be like, oh, well, we'll just hold that over to the next season. Because in my opinion, nothing got resolved in this reunion. And usually when it comes to the reunions, um, it's the point of the reunions is to bring all the stuff, find a resolution with all the stuff that transpired throughout the season. So when we get to a point where nothing is resolved, then it's pointless. And at this point, it's like, what irritated me, because I was, I was sitting there going back and forth with the damn tree stumps. That's why I'm gonna call y'all, because y'all some damn trolls, not the tree huggers. But a lot of Teresa's fans are just as delusional as the woman they worship, because they was like, well, I don't like the fact that Andy was up in there screaming at Teresa. Well, she wouldn't shut the fuck up the whole damn time. That's why he was screaming at her every time that Andy would ask Joe a question or Melissa a question. Teresa would cut them off and would start with her typical bullet points. You broke up the family. You broke my heart. Said it in English and in Italian. And then she would bring up all these other things. Oh, you broke up my marriage, or not broke up my marriage, but you broke up, my relationship between my brother. And no, that shit existed, I'm sure, long before Melissa came into the picture. I don't know what it is between them, but I feel like we need to get to the bottom of why Teresa and Joe are the way they are. Where did this whole thing transpire? Is it the fact that your brother wound up getting married and having a family of his own, and Teresa was jealous? Because I've been watching old clips that people have been bringing up online to try to justify whatever, and the fact that Teresa has used that bullet point for years, talking about how her brother would, oh, you're breaking Nono and Nona's heart because of this, and this. She used the same thing in this reunion, but this time it wasn't the Nono and the Nona because they're not here no more. Now is you breaking my heart. You're hurting my feelings. You ruining, all these other things. But you know who I have an issue with? I got a problem with that damn new husband of hers. Because there's something about Louis. He is making this show so uncomfortable. He's got a creep factor to him that does not sit well with me. I do not think that he is good for Teresa, and I think he's going to destroy that woman before he makes it any better. So I don't even think it's got to do with. I think it's a lot deeper than that. But the fact that he's bringing himself in the middle of the drama, I don't like. There's something about Louis that just doesn't sit right with me, and I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. Because beside the whole Bo Dietl stuff, we'll get into that in a second. But the thing that irritates me, I'm still confused about the whole pajama pants thing. Because remember at the time when they were at what was it, the shore? They were at the shore house, and they wound up saying something or another. He said, I wear do you know I wear your father's pajama pants to make the kids feel safe and loving and all that other stuff. And then he was trying to explain it. He was like, it wasn't pajama bottoms, it was sweatpants. Regardless of the fact you're still wearing someone's clothes that don't belong to you. And I don't know what the hell I got to do with anybody feeling safe. So we still didn't get to the bottom of that. Then which I had no idea, Frank Catania, Black Dolores, Wendy calls her Black Dolores, so I'm gonna run with that. Her ex-husband, I had no idea that he was Joe Gorga's attorney back in the day. But he's been disbarred for reasons I don't know. If y'all know, put it in the comments. But I have no idea why he was disbarred. But anyway, so he said that because there was a theory that came up that Teresa believes from Jacqueline that Joe and Melissa had something to do with her going to jail. Her and Joe Giudice, which Joe Giudice repeated that in an interview where he did for the Behind the Velvet Rope podcast. I don't know if I believe that. I don't believe that's why I would hope that if I had a sibling like that, because I told you I don't get along with my brother, but I would hope that somebody who was a sibling of mine, even if we didn't get along, would stoop so low that they would get the feds involved, and because I hate your ex-husband so much that I would get you thrown in jail. Which, let's be clear, because Joe Giudice said this in the interview. He said if I wasn't a part of this show and this, that, and the other, I guess he still would have been doing what he was doing. He wouldn't have gotten caught by the feds because they wouldn't have been paying attention to him. Which to me is not taking responsibility for their actions, in my opinion. Oh yeah, we definitely have to have a phone chat over that, because this would have been something good to have you a part of. So I have a thought about Melissa that I know I will be right about, but we'll chat about it over a phone chat. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Melissa and Joe are innocent in anything they've done. I've heard some stories that they got some things that they've been involved with where they don't pay people, they owe people a lot of money, and a lot of scandalous situations that's going on in Jersey. But apparently they like Teflon, nothing touches them. Teresa and Joe, I guess, were just sloppy in what it was that they were doing. But yeah, let's get back to the whole recap thing. So yeah, Frank Catania said that Joe did not snitch on Teresa and Joe Giudice and get them thrown in jail or snitch on them or whatever the case was. But I have to say, it does look suspicious when my own brother and his wife are hanging out with the very people that had something to do with getting me and my husband thrown in jail. So it does look fishy when you're hanging out with people who, were involved in a case to throw you in jail. I gotta kind of look at it in a way of like something the milk ain't clean. So I kind of understand where Teresa was coming from with that, but like I said, I hope it's not true that, with the whole thing. Now, remember when I did the thing a couple of weeks ago when I was giving y'all some sneak peek stuff about the Real Housewives, what was going to be happening in the reunion, where I told you all the tea that was coming out with that. The thing did come up about Frankie, little Frankie, cutie Frankie. Ooh, he cute. But anyway, back to this thing. Little Frankie was, he worked for Louis, and they did bring it up because it was an unaired scene where Joe and Frank were talking about the fact that Lil Frankie worked for Louis and then he ended up not working for him anymore. And Frankie was like, in I guess a tweet or whatever, nothing, everything is great. I got a new job. We moved on. And then Dolores looked like she was getting real defensive. And it kind of made us look at it like, okay, so what's going on? Which I gotta hide. Like, is Dolores trying to play what she usually does, Switzerland? I don't want to get in the middle of it because I don't want Teresa to be mad at me and then I end up unemployed on a show where I have no storyline. So Melissa and Joe ain't the only ones on the show that ain't got a storyline. Dolores ain't got one either. But because Teresa needs allies in her corner, particularly Jen Aiden, who lip stays forever perched to Teresa's ass, and then Dolores, who basically plays neutral Nancy. What do you expect? So, yeah, they said that was what Frank said was that he admitted that Joe was contacted by the FBI to answer questions about Joe Judice, not Teresa. Silly didn't know, he didn't show up to say a word. I know he would never try to hurt me, Tree said, although she still seems to believe the theories that Jackie put in her head. So now here's the thing. If you believe that your brother wouldn't try to hurt you, why would you say, but Jacqueline said this? So it's like, do you believe me or do you not believe me? Finally, this was Dolores' season because she got the Buzz Lightyear. She's dating, who's married to another woman he's been married to for like 14 years, um, and all that other stuff. And I did love the fact that they rolled back the footage where Teresa's like, "Oh, I believe Jacqueline," and so yeah, because you hit up Jacqueline and had and y'all made bygones be bygones, but now you're up in here saying that they were looking at it as like, girl, now we supposed to believe that you and Jacqueline are thick as thieves when you said you believe she put you in jail, then you said that you believe Caroline put you in prison, and then first of all you wouldn't even admit your ass was going to prison. You used to call it camp, or you were going away. But now all of a sudden, because y'all patch things up, you believe this story. I don't believe it. I don't know. I don't believe. I mean, trust and believe. Crazy things have transpired, but I don't know if I believe this whole. But you gonna believe Jacqueline Larita is gonna sit up in here and say, and especially I loved how they roll back the clips. You call Jacqueline everything but a child of God, but now you supposed to all of a sudden be team her. Now, I also got to give a huge shout out to John Fuda, who definitely was about to raise up and fuck up Louis for all the drama stuff. Now, here's the thing. I get the whole situation with Dolores. Well, not Dolores. I get the whole thing between Margaret, who is notorious for hiring private investigators to get dirt on her castmates. I have heard stories that she does that. I have heard that she sells stories to the press. I have heard those things. So I get Louis going back and doing the same thing. Louis doesn't, I guess there's a line he don't know that he ain't supposed to cross. And one thing you should not do is bring kids into it. Why are you going and making personal phone calls to Margaret's son and threatening him? That's a no. But then what pisses me off is that the tree huggers are talking about, oh, but Gia. Oh, they be saying this stuff about Gia and they be talking about her daughters. Teresa has asserted her children into a lot of her personal business for years. Y'all are fair game. If you grown and you trying to act like you a damn wannabe housewife, sis, you're fair game. If you're gonna get involved in grown people's business. And the thing with Gia, she always be acting like she way too grown for how she was. Yeah, so I was sitting there reading Lindsay's comments because she's commentating as I'm talking about this. But here's the thing. They had the evidence. His cell number was on the paperwork. But then he went and backpedaled and pussy pop saying he never actually hired Bo Dietl. Now here's the thing. How you gonna say you never hired Bo Dietl when you mention his name, when you mention him twice? You mentioned him at the big season finale blow up. Where was that at? If I remember it. Was it at oh my god, what the hell is her name? Is it, I'm forgetting names. Was it at Dolores and her man's house that they had up? Well, no, you could chime in, sis, and give your opinion because it'll pop up at the bottom. Okay, so yeah, so but then I do believe that he basically was digging up dirt on John Fuda. I don't know why you would do that. Why are you reaching out to his ex-wife who was in jail for all her issues when in fact John and his wife are trying to get well, he was trying to get his current wife to officially adopt his son, Jaden, which I was glad they were able to do. So why are you contacting the ex-wife? Why are you contacting Margaret's son, threatening him, saying you didn't do it, but they got the evidence? Then people say, "Oh, he had this envelope that you ain't even open it up and say what it was." Well, if Andy Cohen would have been would have been like a real moderator and followed up on the stuff, the evidence that was there, then I feel that he would have, we could have found out what was in that envelope. I wanted to know. And Kyra Mines wanted to know. I don't know why Andy didn't follow up on it, probably because there was so much screaming and shouting and stuff going on. He didn't know where to like pull from. But I've always said this about Andy. Andy's problem is he is too comfortable with these people. He is too in it with them that it's like when it's time to really sit and be fair and listen and do all this other stuff, he don't know what to do. I feel like he's lost his sense of being a good moderator. It's time to bring some fresh blood up in there, in my opinion. But you can't sit and say that you hired Ellie. You can't mention him the next day when y'all are having breakfast. And then you sit and say, "Oh, I didn't hire Bo Deedle." But then at the reunion, Bo Deedle sent a security guy that's downstairs trying to come upstairs. So how you gonna say? So Louis gives me bipolar. He gives me very much bipolar disorder. Like you say, or like a psychotic version of Tourette's. How do you say one thing and then you like, I didn't say that, but I got your number. I know I got stuff on your day. It's coming. It's like it's this weird, it's just something crazy about him. But I did find it funny when Joe Gorga said that Louis looked like the Joker, and he did look like him. Like he's got that wide mouth, ginormous teeth. He does remember the Joker. The Joker. He even called Louis a woman abuser, which pissed Teresa off. Which I guess it makes sense. But I'm like, woman abuser in what way? Because I think people don't realize women get abused in many different ways. It don't necessarily have to be he smacked the shit out of her. That is not the only abuse. It's the same thing when I say about when people are being racist. It ain't just by shouting out and calling somebody the N-word. That's the most extreme. Just like putting hands on somebody is the most extreme version of abuse. But I do believe that Louis is emotionally abusive to Teresa. But Teresa, being that she is less than smart, yes, production. Now, because Teresa is less than smart, those are Wendy Williams words. I'm gonna stick with that because we don't like using the S word. I do believe that Louis is emotionally abusive. The fact that she has to constantly have sex with him. Oh, so they checked the. Oh yeah, I don't watch What Happens Live. So thank you for informing me of that. I refuse. I do have a story about Andy Cohen and Watch What Happens Live and Madonna coming up. But anyway, so to wrap up this viewing, because it was a lot going on, I feel like, because it's so much spinning in my head right now that I'm trying to get everything out. I'm trying to hit every corner. But so yeah, so I did say I do agree he looked like the Joker, but the woman abuser thing, it could be that he's being emotionally abusive, that he says and does certain things, and I don't know. Louis did say that he tried to be a brother-in-law to Joe, but I think maybe Joe is like, there's something about him that I don't trust, and it's perfectly okay to feel that way. I'm not just gonna blindly like somebody because you like them. This guy does come across, and I do feel like there's something opportunistic about him. The word on the curb was that he intentionally ran into Teresa and courted her, and she fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. and the daughter's going along with it. One of the things I really wanted them to bring up at the reunion, though, and I was mad that they didn't even touch on that, because if Teresa is so, oh, wanted her brother to be in the wedding and all this other stuff so bad, why was it that you didn't bring? Why didn't they bring up the scene in the car when Melania was in the passenger seat and excuse me, and she had Louis on speaker, and I don't remember exactly what it was. Maybe Lindsay, you could tell me because I forgot. But I think it was an engagement party or something or another that they were inviting people to, and Louis intentionally said on the phone, "Oh, and I made sure not to invite Joe and Melissa to the party." He sent out all the invites to everybody else, but he made sure that he didn't invite them. And then Teresa was like, "We're filming." And saying that was like knowing, because he didn't know, but she knows, because like I said, he doesn't know how to play the game and how reality TV and stuff works yet. Teresa knows what she could put up on cameras. But of course, um, they'll catch you slipping every now and again, but Teresa knows how to play the game. She's been doing it for what, 12, 13, 14 years? So I did want them to elaborate on. I really want them to call out on that though. But if you were really about the whole situation and wanting your brother to be a part of your wedding and this, that, and the third, when there were moments where she would gaslight them. Oh, I want you to be part of this to keep up appearances, but I don't want y'all to be a part of it because to me, it always felt like this wedding and all this other stuff that was going on was a way to one up her brother. I really feel like the reason why Teresa and Joe don't get along, I think she's envious that they're part of the show, because her being on the Real Housewives of New Jersey is fame, money, all that stuff comes with it. She has something over them that she can consistently brag. Well, look, I'm on TV, I'm famous, I'm this, I'm that, and that's cute or whatever. You can have all that because you earned your spot. In my opinion, Teresa has earned her spot to be on the Real Housewives of New Jersey. She flipped the table, prostitution whore, all that other stuff. That was a great moment from TV. Pushing Andy Cohen in the chair, great moment in TV. All the things that she says and she cuts people out, I live for it. I live for the drama. I live for Teresa in those moments. But the minute Melissa and Joe became a part of the show, I think that really sent her over the edge. But I also think she's going after them when you really need to be going after production, because production shady ass, I feel like they saw an opportunity and a moment to exploit Teresa and Joe's relationship, because the show Jersey has centered itself around the whole family thing. We're family, we're this, we're that. That's what they've centered their show around. And the fact that you have this sibling rivalry, which I've totally forgot about this. Kathy Wakili, is her mother, and the Judices Nono Judice. Nono Gorga. Sorry. Judice was Joe Judice's last name. Nono Gorga, their father, their siblings. I totally forgot they had a moment where they weren't speaking. So now it's sort of like history repeating itself. And speaking of that, let's bring up the whole Gia allegedly lying about saying the fact that he could do better than Melissa. So then Teresa called Gia on the phone on the stage, and Gia denied that she said what she said. She said that she had called Zio Joe to beg him to come to the wedding, but didn't discuss the gossip. It said, Zio Joe, that you're trying to call me a liar. I told y'all that was going to happen too. Thanks to all the, the tea that I was pulling up from other places, doing my digging. And then Melissa and Joe thought that they said, you know what, Teresa go sit up in there and make Gia lie. And that's when she left and was like, don't follow me. And she stormed the stage and screamed. And then, brought out a couple of tears and all that stuff. Then she called Gia to console her. But then I was confused by that whole thing. So it made it seem like that maybe Gia, the way that the way it transpired when we saw the clip behind backstage, did the other White Housewives say anything about me and this and the third? It made it seem like Gia possibly wasn't telling the truth. But like I said before, I really want to know the tea of what happened with Dolores and that whole situation with little Frankie and Louis, and the fact that something did happen, I believe. And Dolores doesn't want to go into it because she doesn't want to cause any friction between her friendship with Teresa. So yeah, Louis was like, not forget that you wasn't coming, you wasn't invested, and I'm not sending a confirmed invite. I mean, I still would have sent the invites out, but if you don't want to come, then that's it. That's fine. And you don't want to be a part of my thing, I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm gonna continue to put out that olive branch because I care about my brother. But I guess maybe I don't know, from the way that the show was edited and the way they made it made it feel like Joe and Melissa were trying to make do with whatever. And then Teresa would always try to throw in her little manipulation and this, that, the other, or say like little things, negative things. And it's like, well, why? I'm not going to go where I'm not wanted. So that's kind of the sense of the way it came across. Now, as far as the future of the show, I don't know what's going to happen at this point because I remember at the end, Louis tried to, make it all better and was like, you know what? I never hired this, that, and the third. I truly believe that he did. But I felt like there was more questions left unanswered. And I'm hoping with the upcoming season, depending on where they go, because it's going to be a long pause, they can figure out what's going to happen. But do I think Melissa and Teresa are going to come back? I think they're trying to figure out what needs to be done. I do feel like that Louis made things awkward with the whole filing all these things against them, Bo Dietl, that whole situation. You pretty much had half the cast investigated. So how do we move forward with that? I do believe that that moment is what made producers feel like, fuck, we're in a position of what do we do? So I don't know what happens at this point. I would love to see Melissa come back in some sort of way. Maybe they'll bring her back in an Ultimate Girls Trip. You know what's perfect? Bring her back in Ultimate Girls Trip season 6 after they finish doing the New York Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, which I heard they're getting paid $250K an episode. I just heard that recently. The Housewives of New York to do Ultimate Girls Trip, but that's basically a week, so it's probably not that bad. I mean, a lot of money they're shelling out. But anyway, Ultimate Girls Trip season 6. I say give Melissa Gorgo on that season and Kim Zolciak. I wish they would bring Nene Leakes back on, but that shady shit y'all did last week, where y'all erased Nene off an old thing from the Housewives, and y'all got dragged on social media because of that. I think y'all need to yeah, that was ugly on production's part where they did that to Nene. It's like, regardless of how y'all feel about Nene, she made Atlanta what it was, because it ain't no more. Now it's fucking boring. But it's unfortunate. Like, you know what? Somebody suggested this. One of my friends was like, when I was talking about it in the comments, because I heard, Adam Barter was talking about he's getting Kim G to come on one of his shows. Shout out to him, by the way, because he was on the Jersey Housewives at one point. He I don't know what the future is gonna hold for them. If they don't come back, it'll be sad. They'll have to figure out something. It'll be a relief on, I guess, a lot of the viewers as well as Teresa, because now she can finally do this damn show without having to constantly fight with her damn brother and sister-in-law. I think they're pretty much done at this point. But a friend of mine suggested that they should do like a couples therapy, family dynamic type show with just the Gorgas and with Joe and Melissa Gorga and Teresa and Louis. I think they should just did the reunion with those four, because the others really wasn't giving what needed to be given. So it's a whole lot that went on. I probably missed some stuff. I definitely want to know what y'all thought about this review in the comments. I'm probably going to edit this damn sequence down into one little clip. Well, not clip, but just the whole segment. So I'm thinking this thing probably I'll talk a good 30 minutes on this reunion, because it was so much that happened in part 3. Part 3 was where it was at. But yeah, it was cringe for me. It was a lot of I was literally on an emotional roller coaster. Like I said, I need a damn Xanax after I watched that damn episode.